Welcome to FFT and 5. I'm Chris Towers. I'm here with Emory Hunt. And Emory, I was over at CBSSports.com looking at some of the mock drafts that we've got up on the site, and it looks like we've got like 3 to 4 wide receivers being taken in the first round on average. We got like 5 or 6 different people doing mock drafts, and the consensus seems to be 3 to 4 rookie first rounders at wide receiver. You compare that to last year, we had 4 in the top 12, 6 in the first round. 2021, we had 3 top 10 wide receivers, 5 overall in the first round. So I guess the first question is it fair to say that this class doesn't quite stack up to the last few years in terms of top end talent?
Maybe so, but when you look at it in totality, because I really break down a position into 4 different groups: split ends, which are your X receivers; your Z receivers, which are your flankers, slot; and also inside wide receivers, which are your bigger inside guys. So when you look at it in completion, you may find guys that are equally as talented. But when you look at this compared to, let's say, the quarterback class of this year, or the offensive tackle class, or the cornerback class, yes, it'll push some receivers down the line.
Now, do you think is it fair to say that there's a lack of impact potential in this class, or is it just relative to the other positions, it doesn't quite stack up?
It's a little bit of both, because you may have a lack of top end guys. But when you look at it juxtaposed to, man, there's a bunch of good tackles in this group, so that pushes guys down. And there's 4 quarterbacks that could go in the first round, that pushes guys down. We may even see 2 running backs go in the first round, which also pushes down some of these wide receivers. So I think it's a little bit of both, to answer your question.
Is there a consensus top guy in this class?
I don't know if there's consensus, but there's 2 guys that everyone tends to like a lot, and that's Zay Flowers, who's my number 1 Z, which is flanker, and Jackson Smith and Jigba of Ohio State, who is my number 1 slot guy. I think those 2 are the consensus top guys amongst everyone. They're going to be excellent plug and play guys from day one.
Yeah, Flowers and Jordan Addison would be the other early round guy. They're a little on the smaller side. Flowers listed at 5'9", 182 pounds. Jordan Addison, 5'11", 173. Now, we saw a lot of talk a couple of years ago about Devontae Smith. Is he too small? I thought that stuff was kind of silly, because I don't know, if you're that productive at the SEC, I think you're probably a pretty good player despite your size. But, is that something that we're seeing kind of a change at the NFL level, where teams are more willing to take, smaller wide receivers in the early rounds and expect them to step in from day one?
Absolutely, because the field it feels like it's wider now, because they're going to more of that up-tempo CFL type game that we're seeing up north. So yes, you have more room for smaller guys at quarterback, smaller guys at receiver, smaller guys at corner. You even talk about taking a corner that's a shorter guy, putting him on the outside. So yeah, because the field is wide open now, it lends itself to using more of these shorter, quicker guys, which is exactly what Zay Flowers is. This dude is quick in all directions.
Yeah, is that specifically what makes him your number 1 guy? What skill set stands out for him?
Explosive. I comped him to Tyreek Hill because he's explosive in all directions. He's short, not small, so he's well put together. He's a jitterbug, but also has the ability to really power through routes and explosive. And that's something that you don't nearly see a lot from guys. You may see one or the other, but when you're muscular, well put together, and explosive, you not only become a threat when you catch the football, but you're someone they could put in the wide receiver run game as well.
Who's your number 2 guy in the class?
I would say number 2, judging by the numbers. Again, each one is graded differently, because you can't rank Wes Welker how you rank Randy Moss. So they play different positions. But I do like Mike Wilson from Stanford. The caveat I always have with him is if he's healthy, because that's been the plague for him all throughout his career at Stanford. But when he's out there on the field, he's phenomenal. He's very fluid. He can go down the field. He can stretch the defense and also make plays above the rim as a 50-50 guy. One guy that people should keep an eye on that I grade as my number 3 flanker, because he is tremendous. He reminds me of the Odell Beckham Jr. of this class, and that's Trey Palmer out of Nebraska. People forget he was at LSU, was a dynamic punt returner, just like OBJ was in college, but also someone that can really get deep down the field. You put the ball in his hands, he's looking to score, and has the agility, the explosiveness, and the fluidity to make it happen.
All right, a couple of years ago, we had Amon-Ra St. Brown emerge as a 4th-round pick, has been, a must-start fantasy wide receiver for the last couple of seasons. I think he's a top 12 guy, for 2023. Is there anyone in this class who you would identify as kind of that type of player, a day 3 pick who might take a couple of weeks to get going, but could be a big impact player for fantasy?
That's a good question because I don't know if he's going to go day 3 because of how he tested, but because he can play like a day 1 guy. And that's Dontavian Wicks out of Virginia. I thought he was phenomenal on tape, and he's someone that's a big physical player, has good football speed. So he may not have tested well at the combine, but he's someone that I think is going to get into a program and wow, they can't keep the ball out of this guy's hands. He's going to end up being a go-to guy, just like you mentioned, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
All right, we're going to have more from Emory Hunt over the next couple of weeks leading up to the draft. Make sure you go to footballgameplan.com/2023 draft guide to check out more of Emory's thoughts on the upcoming class. He's got thoughts on pretty much every player who's coming out of the college ranks this year, so make sure you check it out. We'll see you next time on Fantasy Football Today in 5.